Welcome to the Savvy Leader Podcast, the place for growth, learning, and inspiration for leaders just like you. I'm your host, Kristin Gallatin, and each week we will dive into the grit, grace, and gratitude it takes to become the savvy leader you were always meant to be. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining us for this week's edition of the Savvy Leader Podcast. I am thrilled to have one of my very best friends, Stephanie Ewals, here with Out of the Woods Nutrition. She is the go-to person for all things when it comes to nutrition and everything you're putting into your body, and then also how your body responds. But I'm going to let her share a little bit more about her story and how she founded Out of the Woods Nutrition. Stephanie, tell us about you. How did you create and why did you come up with this business of yours, and what's so important about it? Why are you so passionate about this?
Well, thank you so very much for having me, first of all. I'm really grateful. My story of starting this starts out like many, many people in the health and wellness industry, of just not finding the help I needed to become healthier. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in 2002. And that runs in my family. So I thought, oh, I'll just take this medication and everything will be fine. And everything was not fine for many, many years. 2004, I was pregnant with my third child and lost that child to stillbirth after my doctor had taken me off my thyroid medication because I was presenting as if I was hyperthyroid, meaning too much thyroid hormone in my body. So he took me off my medication. 6 weeks later, I was delivering a stillborn baby. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what. Just, my intuition, my gut, whatever you want to call it, was like, there's got to be something here. They took vial after vial after vial after vial of blood in the hospital to try to test everything they possibly could. Everything looked fine, is what they said. So I just went on about life, not really, knowing something wasn't right, but I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know what to do. The internet was fairly new at that time. So, I mean, it wasn't, I guess it had been around for a while, but there wasn't a lot of information out there on what I was looking for. And some of the things that I did find didn't really resonate with me. So in 2010, 2009, maybe, just something in my little voice in my head said, you should try going gluten-free. Because I'd spent all these years just not feeling well. I was hangry a lot because my blood sugar was mismanaged. I couldn't lose the 15 pounds wanted to lose after having my fourth child. I was really struggling at the gym, lots of fatigue, night sweats, insomnia. It was really kind of a disaster. But this little voice in my head said, you should try going gluten-free. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to do that either, but I'll give it a try. Not a lot of information on the internet that I could find at that time either about how to do that well. So, but I did it and I lost 15 pounds in about 6 weeks. So I lost a lot of inflammation, really is the moral of that story. And I didn't change anything else. Okay, probably I wasn't eating enough because I didn't know what I could eat anymore at the time. So maybe that had played a role in it. But for the most part, it was inflammation. But then I knew I was onto something. And I found a naturopathic doctor on the internet and she did some blood tests. She's the one who diagnosed me with my autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroiditis. And And then I was like, wow, I'm onto something here. So I started taking some supplements and she started to figure out that, my adrenals needed some love. So I was taking some stuff to support that. I really started to really feel good. Still struggled a bit, but that led me to be like, I really want to help other people because I didn't have the self-esteem or the guts, whatever, to advocate for myself in the doctor's office. And I really wanted to help women to be able to do that because when you know better, you can do better. Knowledge is power, all the things, all those fun little cliche statements are true. So I went and got a certification in nutritional therapy in 2014, and then helped a lot of people with that certification. But I also knew I didn't know what I didn't know. So I went back to school in 2019 and got my master's degree in human nutrition and functional medicine. And then had to do 1,000 clinical hours supervised under somebody to get my license to practice nutrition in the state. So that is the long, short story of how I came here to, I am so passionate about helping other women with chronic illness learn what works for their body, for their bio-individual chemistry, and to, especially women with thyroid issues, advocate for their health care in the conventional medical system because the standard of care for women with Hashimoto's is let your thyroid die off a little more each year and we'll just up your medication. But you can only take this one certain medication because all the other medications are quote unquote bad for you. And so this is all we're going to do for you. And we're only going to test your TSH and maybe your T4 if you're lucky. And so learning to understand what that means is important for women with these chronic health issues and learning how to say to their doctor, I would like more than this. And for women to understand that the doctor isn't hiring you, you're hiring the doctor. You're in charge of who you see for your health. And insurance aside, that's a big issue. I know a lot of people can't or don't want to leave their health system because their insurance then won't cover it. I have gotten better health care using a cash pay nurse practitioner than anywhere else I've ever gone. So, and I just make it a priority.
That is such a compelling story. I remember the first time you shared with me how the catalyst that put you into this nutrition arena, especially having to do with your thyroid. I mean, what a horrifying experience. I just can't imagine the journey that you went on after losing a child like that. And then
Hmm.
I just can't imagine where your headspace might have been. And then you find yourself in these other situations where you have to deal with the medical services that I had a conversation with a couple of people now on our podcast that just talked about our medical system is failing so many people. And it's true. You're right. Like we have to be able to be strong. We have to be, and strong, we have to be vocal. I should say we have
Hmm.
to be vocal about where we're at, how we're feeling, what's actually happening with us, and stop thinking that the doctor that's sitting across the table or on the other side of the little countertop that they sit at with their computer is knows everything, because they really don't. But sometimes they're not always willing to talk about things that are outside of that conventional medicine and treatment. Um, and it almost as if, I went through a situation myself where, and I had a health issue and I wanted to make some changes in my diet. And I just asked the doctor, okay, what should I be eating? What should I be staying away from? Or basically what I wanted to know is what's better for my heart? What should I be eating more of to help my heart heal? And they really just couldn't give me an answer. It's like, well, okay, so the box of Cheerios probably gave me more information than the doctor at that point. But it's, it's frustrating. You feel, vulnerable in a new way, and you're like kind of counting on them, but they just don't know, do they? And you had to raise your voice yourself so many times, and
Yeah.
getting those test results that are so deflating when they say everything is within the normal range.
Yeah. Yeah. To be fair to doctors, they are not allowed they're not allowed very often to even talk alternatives because they have rules they have to follow in order to get paid by the insurance company. So there's a whole mess within the insurance companies and how the insurance companies manage the health systems and how they get paid. And then you have this pharmacy benefit manager that controls the drug prices that is owned by the insurance company. Doctors can lose their jobs if they don't toe the line. So I get it, but that's where then you seek out the alternatives. Conventional medicine is great for acute care. You have a broken arm, you're having a heart attack, you have a bad fall, you need surgery, that kind of stuff. But even the surgery piece, they'll take out a gallbladder without saying, oh, there's ways you can fix those gallstones without us having to take your gallbladder out. But then, it's more of a magic fix. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, so advocating for yourself. And I will say too, the more I've learned over the years, I could have gotten really angry and stayed really angry because I didn't need to go through what I went through because my doctor didn't know what he was doing. And I know that now, but there's nothing I can do to change what happened except for help other people know better so that they're not falling into the same situation that I fell into. So, I guess taking all of that hurt and pain and turning it into something good was my mission on earth. So I don't sit in a place of angry or be angry at the doctors. I find a way to make better health care for myself. And if it means that I, have to tighten up my budget a little bit so I can afford to see a cash pay person. Cash pay is way cheaper than going through your insurance in the first place, especially if you have a high deductible, because most of us never meet those deductibles and the premiums are outrageous. For us, when we ended up having to pay out our own health insurance, it was a $1,300 a month payment for a $6,000 per person deductible.
Wow.
Well, if we saved that $13,000 um, or that $1,300 every month, we'd have a good chunk of change to put away for any sort of healthcare issues. That said, we're relatively healthy, so we can afford to do that. Not everybody is in that boat, and I understand that. And so some people do need to have the insurance. We do a health share program where everybody pays into a pool and your money goes to pay other people's medical bills. And that works for us because I never go to the doctor anyways, except for my cash pay nurse practitioner because I have to get a prescription renewed. So I have to see somebody for that. But
I've been a part of some of those plans where I kind of enjoyed it. I'm
mhm.
not currently, but I've been in search of another good one. So we'll talk after, and you can let me know which
Yeah,
one you enjoy, and I'll have to look into that because I like that you have that autonomy, and yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot of good things that come along with that. That's, not working with big insurance companies. It can feel a little bit more um intimate and just,
hmm,
more engaged. I like that. So,
yeah.
talk to me a little bit about nutrition now. So, how would you define like a functional nutritional therapy, or how would that differ from a conventional approach? I mean, so when people are thinking about, here we are, busy business people, you're busy too. how do you manage your day-to-day food consumption? I mean, you talked about gluten-free, and there are getting to be a lot more um, options available for gluten-free. I have to say, it's been pretty impressive to go to the store and see how things have shifted. So, over time, wasn't overnight, but there are a lot more options than there ever has been for different
Yes.
types of sensitivities. So share with us how you manage your day and how you work through making sure you're consuming things that are good for you without it creating such an added piece of work for your day.
Right off the top, I will say it just takes time to get used to a new way of life. And then once you do, it's just like anything else you do. It's your life and you manage it that way. But so we'll define functional nutrition. It's similar in the world of functional medicine. Functional nutrition helps get to the root cause of what your chronic health issues are, and then addressing the root cause so that the problem is either well managed or goes away, just depending on what it is. So we're looking to figure out, why is your body acting the way it is? What's going on and how can we fix it? And um, back to the doctors and you not getting answers about what to eat, because doctors have basically no training in nutrition. They don't have a clue. Um, and that's okay. Like that's not their job. I really feel strongly that every um, doctor's office should have nutritionists working to help their patients so that they get the answers that they need. But just I try to when I first changed my diet, I ate a lot of bread. And I ate a lot of sweets. It's just how I grew up, and bread was my best friend. I love bread to this day. I grieved the loss of real bread, and I always say on my deathbed, my last meal is gonna be a baguette with butter and as many of them as I can eat. So I'm I take an 80-20 approach. 80% of the time I eat real food. I cook most of my meals. We rarely go out to eat. If we do, I like to go to more farm to table or higher quality restaurants if we can, just because the food is always better. And you know that it's not coming out of a Cisco truck, basically, and just being reheated. So I like those types of restaurants. That's why we don't go out to eat that often. That said, occasionally we'll do Mansetti's gluten-free pizza. I will, or something like that, and that's totally fine. I have to eat gluten-free, but I'm not dogmatic about it, And I will say, I was at a meeting yesterday and I was driving home hangry, and I stopped at Chick-fil-A and got grilled nuggets and waffle fries, and I had that on my way home. And the waffle fries say that they're not gluten-free, but it's because they're fried in the same fryer as all their breaded products. For me, that's not an issue. For somebody with celiac disease, that might be an issue. So I'm not like hard and fast rules about my diet. I have been in the past, and it led me to look at food as something that was to be feared. And I don't ever want anyone to have to feel that way about food. So I have taken a much more relaxed approach to my diet. I didn't grow up eating a lot of vegetables, so that has been the biggest challenge for me over the years is getting new vegetables in, learning to like new vegetables, learning to eat more vegetables in general. But I'm even kind of relaxed about that. A lot of people eat carnivore, which is meat only, and they are thriving. So I don't, if I miss a serving of vegetables or two in a day, it is what it is. So I do just try to make a breakfast, eggs. I've been doing eggs with some special kind of beans that are like Mexican flavored, and I can't remember the name off the top. It's from Siete Foods. but it's like a Mexican bean in a sauce. And I'll add that to my eggs, and then I have it in almond flour tortillas, and that's a really fun breakfast. I almost always have leftovers for lunch, or if I'm desperate, I'll go to like a Kevin's meal. I've talked about those a lot to people. They're a great frozen meal option because they're really clean and they're delicious and they're high in protein. And then I'm usually cooking, we're either having leftovers for dinner or I'm cooking something. So, I'm not sure if that totally answered your question, but I always kind of go with the just eat real food approach. And that's a hashtag in social media from years ago. They call it JERF, JERF,
Mhm.
just eat real food. So I always
Yeah,
try to keep that in the back of my mind.
I think that's so great. Well, and I guess the most important piece of that was it is going to be a lifestyle change. So
Yes,
like so many things that we need to do if we want to do, we you don't get to always just say, I know that this is good and I'm going to do this, but taking that step to actually implement a change in your lifestyle, I think we don't always embrace it with the kind of level of commitment that we should. And
correct.
eating well benefits us in so many ways. We sleep better, we work better, we live healthier, more joyful lives just because we've got our gut in check.
Yeah.
And I love that you gave us some tips on some of the things that you eat because I'll include those links in the description for people to check them out. But I wanted to talk about so um, you specialize though in chronic illness like Hashimoto's.
Hmm.
So does living with an invisible type of chronic illness uniquely challenge you? How do you, I mean, you talked a little bit about embracing that commitment, but how do you maintain and keep that sustainable? I mean, you also mentioned that, I'm not dogmatic about it. I recognize this is what I need, but I don't beat myself up about it too. So, how do you keep yourself from, once you've made that commitment, how do you not kind of let it run your life?
Um, it did for a while, I'll be honest, for quite a few years. When I first started making changes, it did run my life. I was afraid to go out to eat. I was afraid to do a lot of stuff. Now I've learned to just listen to my body and honor what it is telling me. So if I don't look sick, I don't look like I have a chronic illness, but I do sometimes struggle with my energy. And so I honor that and I will just lay around for half a day if that's what my body needs. And I've learned to be okay with it and I've learned to verbalize that to my spouse because sometimes he forgets that I've got this issue going on. So I he'll be like, "Oh, why he doesn't really say why you just laying around, but he'll just make a comment about, "Oh, just hanging out today or whatever." And I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm just really tired today." It's just and that's the end of it. I'm just like I've learned that if I don't take care of me, I am no good to anybody else. So I that was the best thing I could have ever done for myself, and I did it when my kids were younger. Um, so I was able to model that behavior, like it's okay to take care of yourself to them. And I've had conversations with women about that where they don't do things because of their kids, and I'm like, you should be doing this because of your kids because you're modeling a behavior one way or the other. Do you want to model that it's okay to take good care of yourself, or do you want to model that it's okay to let yourself go to hell, basically? You know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes in my job that stuff is more important than the nutrition piece, but I am so clear that there's no band-aids here. If you really want to feel better and you really want to have a higher quality of life, you want to perform better at your job, you have to take care of yourself. And there is just no getting around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that healing of the gut and your low energy. So when you're healing your gut, you'll reduce your stress. I mean, but you feel so much better. I love how you touched on the fact that you needed to figure out a way to communicate or verbalize how you're feeling with the people around you, because I think that
Mm-hmm.
that is a common misconception too. Like, we're busy, we are
Mm-hmm.
business owners and we have a lot going on. So when the people around us see us uncommonly sitting, what appears to be sitting around and not being productive today, um, they kind of jump to some assumptions that maybe we're just being lazy, when the fact of the matter is what we're doing is taking care of ourselves and honoring our body and recognizing that the better we take care of this body, the better we can work for the long term and better we can provide for our family and more present and more intentional with everybody
Mm-hmm.
we care about, including our work. So that gut, the healing of the gut, is there, I mean, is there a quick fix for this? There's all kinds of things online that talk about how, oh, just drink this or try this and you'll have instant gut, cleanse. Is there, or is it something that takes time?
It is not always the gut first. Um, your gut might be fine and something else is off. You go with the Hippocrates, all disease begins in the gut is fairly true, but it's not always the first place to start, in my opinion. Um, it's and the testing to know if you have leaky gut or if there's issues in your gut can be really expensive. So my first line of defense is let's look at basic blood chemistry. What does your CBC say? What is your comprehensive metabolic panel? Those tests cost together around $10 to order, where a gut function test is going to be a couple $100. So, and sometimes the issue is starting in your head. Are you eating when you're stressed? Well, you're not going to digest your food very well when you're stressed. So is that a gut problem or is that a head problem? Is it how many bites or how many chews per bite of food are you taking? That's not a gut problem. I'm throwing food down my mouth too fast and chewing it twice and then swallowing it. And then your gut has to break all that food down that you haven't chewed. So it's not always gut. The stuff going wrong there will cause downstream effects of, other systems. So it is a good place to look, but it's not always the first issue. So I forgot what the second part of that question was though. So you have to remind me.
That's a So, I mean, so we see a lot of things online. I guess I was just touching
Oh
on
yeah.
how we get, how can we filter out what's good, what's not good? I mean, certainly, and we were talking about this too just before we hopped on, was AI.
Hmm.
There's so many resources and tools available to us. How do we filter all of that information appropriately for ourselves?
What I tell my clients and my audience is let me be the filter for you because I've got the scientific background to understand what's a load of crap and what's not. And the supplement industry is like a $78 billion industry. So those people selling you those quick fixes, those gut cleanses, those detoxes, they're making a lot of money off of the supplements and they shouldn't if they don't know anything about what's going on in your body, and if you don't really know what's going on in your body, you shouldn't just be willy-nilly buying stuff off the internet because the internet said that you should, or that it's good for you, or that it's going to fix this problem. That's a band-aid. It's not getting at the root cause. So that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it, I guess.
That's a
The
good one. Yeah.
internet, the internet is full of malarkey.
Okay. That's well, and I mean, we talked about that too. It's like, AI is an aggregate of information on the internet. How long have people been telling us to not to believe everything we read on the internet? And now here we have
Yeah.
AI pulling all that internet in. Now we know it's going to get better, and as more information is put out there, it's going to get better. But just don't trust everything you see and ask an
No.
expert like you.
And there are quote unquote health experts on the internet. There's this
Yeah.
person telling women that the only way to fat loss is a carnivore diet. And that if you eat even a bite of apple, it's going to spike your insulin and cause you to gain fat, which is total crap. It is not true. Um, and women of a certain age, especially women with thyroid problems, need some carbohydrates. So, is that a good statement to be telling people that you shouldn't be eating apples? I don't think so. So, but she sells it really, really, really well. And she looks cool and she's got the body to say, oh, look, this worked for me. Well, what works for one person doesn't work for everybody else is the cautionary tale of the day. So I would just keep that in mind when you're seeing that stuff on the internet and a lot of practitioners, whether they're licensed or they're health coaches or they have a certification, they are selling you what worked for them. And what works for them doesn't work for everybody. It's going to help quite a few people, but then what about those people who spend 2 grand on their program and they still feel terrible afterwards or didn't do what they promised? That's because we're all biochemical individuals. Our chemistries are different. What works for me isn't going to work for you. What works for you isn't going to work for somebody else. So I just keep that in your mind when you're looking at all this stuff on the internet and put on your critical thinking hat and always ask questions.
And it sounds like, because you've mentioned this a couple of times already, your mindset is such a
Hmm.
key component
Yeah.
to recognizing nutritionally what you need. And part of it is, like you said, you miss your bread. I'm a sourdough girl.
Hmm.
And I could eat sourdough all day long. And I when I, try to refrain, it is hard. I mean, I love bread too.
Hmm.
Um, but recognizing, I think it is a shift from
Yeah.
and I don't, because I don't think a deprivation diet is ever a good idea.
No, no.
So how do you move your, I mean, is it, how do you move your brain into that space? Like, do you need to start prioritizing your health? I mean, how do you, it can't just be affirmations and things like that. There's got to be typically some kind of a switch that's flipped that helps you put your body's health
Yeah.
in the forefront.
For me, I wanted to feel better more than I wanted the bread. And that I think is what trips a lot of people up. They're not at their low point. They don't maybe feel bad enough yet. Again, I think that's a bio-individual thing too. You have to, like, I just knew if I wanted to feel good, if I didn't want to be a psycho mom, a psycho wife, because I was crazy. My moods were so erratic. Everybody was walking on eggshells. I was destroying my family with my health issues because when they were very unmanaged, I mean, there have been like I don't know how many years ago, but long, long time ago, when thyroid problems went unmanaged, people ended up in the psych ward because it can mess with your mind. Um, so I was not in a good space and I didn't want to be there anymore. And so that was like rock bottom for me, I guess. So people just have to decide, how we, a lot of women especially, will look in the mirror and we don't like the way we look physically. Well, what are you going to do about it? If you don't like the way you look, you are in control of changing that. But if you say, I don't like the way I look, and then you go buy some ice cream and you have that, a pint of ice cream for dessert, well, you don't hate it enough. I mean, hate isn't the right word. You don't not like the way you look enough to commit yourself to making the changes that are needed to get where you think you want to be, I guess. That's like a physical thing, but for the chronic health issues, do you want to? A lot of people identify with their illness. I don't identify as a thyroid patient or as somebody with an autoimmune disease. I'm me and I deal with these health issues that have come up, but they don't run my life. So then that mindset piece is getting past identifying with your illness. Are you your illness or not? And that's maybe a job for a therapist, not for me. But it's so nuanced. It really just depends on and where they're at in their life. And like I know I've always been this way. I've always wanted to do the right thing, and do what was supposedly healthy. It was always like that. And then when I ended up, you know, with thyroid problems, thought I was doing the right thing, but then it wasn't working for me. So then my mind went, okay, why isn't this working for me? What can I do to make it work for me? So I was always looking for a way to feel better. Um, Not everybody's like that. So I don't know. Do you just wake up one day and say, okay, I want to feel better and I'm going to start making the changes? Maybe you do. I mean, there's so much that we do that's centered around food. And if you have to change your diet, then that puts you at you're like a social pariah. When I was first started getting into nutrition, and some of my friends at the time were like, in their mind, healthy meant, oh, are you going to have, a tofurkey for Thanksgiving? Well, that doesn't necessarily equate to health in my book, but in somebody else's mind it does. So then, people don't know what it means to be healthy or where to find that information because the internet is telling them so many different things and it's confusing what is actually healthy. But you just have to think about what's healthy for you, not only for your body, but for your mind as well, because you can't if you have chronic illness and you really do want to feel better, you do have to make some permanent diet and lifestyle changes. I focus on sleep. If I can't get, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, I'm not good the next day. And then I'm craving all the sugar and wanting all the junk food. I know that sometimes I forego good sleep and don't eat great the next day, but then I get back on track. But I'm always trying to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do so that the last 16 years of my life, which are typically the lowest quality of life for senior citizens, I don't want to live that way. And so I've made that decision to try a little harder, to eat better, to exercise, to prioritize good sleep, to manage my stress. Like it's all the functional medicine world encompasses all of that, including how good are your relationships? Do you feel like you have purpose? What is your role in the community? Do you feel like you have a sense of community? If sometimes you can do all the other things right, and if you don't have that piece, you still won't be healthy because we need that connection with other people. And I think the pandemic really proved that because a lot of people didn't do very well, myself included. And I don't have a great big community to gather around, but I needed my small little community and I felt like I had nothing. And it was not good for my mental health. So I can imagine what it was like for other people. So that was a really long-winded answer, but there you go.
Well, I just love how open you are and how you share your stories. I mean, you're just so willing to just put it all out there for everyone.
Yeah.
Um, so tell us a little bit about how you founded or chose the name Out of the Woods.
So I was thinking the tagline for Out of the Woods Nutrition is get clear about your health. So it's like you're walking out of the woods. Finally, you're in the clearing and you can finally see what you need to feel better. So that's the basic of it.
And that's so great because what I'm thinking about, like, if we could just say, okay, could a person just take like a weekend and do something over a weekend that helps kind of cleanse their body a bit so they can start fresh before? Because I think while we're all sitting here eating all this, consuming all these things that aren't good for us or that aren't or our body isn't responding well to, um, Is there something they could do over a weekend where they could maybe kind of give themselves a little bit of a fresh start? Because that's what they need to hear their body and kind of really understand what our body needs. So that trying to hear my body right now after I'm kind of in a not great state is pretty tough. Or I mean, is a weekend not long enough? Do you need a week or 2 weeks, or what's your thoughts on
Um,
that?
I would say so there's a lot of people that say you should, oh, especially come January, do a detox. You need a detox. Everybody should detox, especially after the holidays with all the sugar. If your body isn't relatively healthy before you do some sort of detox or fasting, you can set yourself up for worse problems because our body releases toxins through sweat, through our feces, through urine, and through respiration, just through breathing. So, if you're dehydrated, you're not able to, your cells aren't able to communicate well. They're not able to get rid of wastes because every cell creates its own waste and it has to get rid of it and then it leaves our body. If you're not pooping daily, uh, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day is good, then you're reabsorbing toxins. So if you're doing a fast or you're doing a cleanse or you're doing a detox and you don't have all those things working really well, your body's going to we store toxins in our fat tissue. If we're losing any amount of fat, it's all of those things, if they can't leave our body, they get redeposited somewhere else in other tissues, which can make you sicker. Can, especially women with not being able to get, we lose estrogen through, we detoxify estrogen through our liver, and then we get rid of the quote unquote bad estrogen through our stool. But if you're not pooping regularly, that's being reabsorbed. And that bad estrogen is what causes the breast cancers and things like that. So a weekend isn't long enough. I would say drink a lot of water. Half your body weight in ounces is a general recommendation. Try to add some salt or electrolytes to that so that your cells can use it. It'll help you not have to pee as often as well. Because you can drink a bunch of water and then if you have to go pee all day long, that's no fun. So the electrolytes do help your body use the water instead of just peeing it out. Focus on sleep. If that's the one thing you want to do over a weekend, get off your phone once the sun sets or put on some blue light blocking glasses. They're usually orange lenses that you can get them to go over glasses. That's what I do when I read at night. I put those on. It helps increase your melatonin and lower your cortisol. So you get tired when you're supposed to. Sleep in a cold, dark room. I've heard lately that even running like a air filtration, like those little, I'm not thinking of the right word, but you can buy a little air filter, like room filter things. I can't even think of the name right now. It's gonna bug me. Put one of those in your room if you sleep with the door closed, or sleep with the window cracked just a little bit. Get a lot of, especially now in the fall, get that cold, fresh air coming in. And if there's a lot of light in your room, if you can't get room darkening curtains, wear an eye mask to cover your eyes so that everything is dark and make that your first priority. A lot of times just getting really good sleep can turn so much around. And then focus on protein. That's really big on the internet right now, but it is very, very it's a one good thing that the internet is telling people about their health is get enough protein in. Women, minimum of 100 grams a day, which is feels very challenging and can be very challenging. 30 grams of chicken is like 4 ounces of chicken breast, or 30 grams of protein in a chicken breast is 4 ounces. So that's not that much. But that means you have to be very intentional with what you eat every day. And then you won't be full for the snacks and the treats, which will improve your health exponentially. So yeah, no magic weekend fixes, but I would say focus if you're going to do anything, focus on getting good sleep.
Okay. So focus on the sleep first, and then incorporate more water, half your body weight in ounces a day, and then protein. I think that's a really
Yeah.
good start. And yeah, I do focus on protein a lot, though I probably need to maybe keep track of how much protein. And I know too, like um, really satiating foods can
Hmm.
help with that snacking too. Because it feels like sometimes when you do start on that snacking thing, it's a kind of a vicious cycle. It's hard to break that habit.
Yeah, I was a big snacker. I still kind of am, but I don't keep snacks in my house now just for that reason.
Hmm.
So I'm forced to eat better. But those things, when you for business owners, entrepreneurs especially, like there's no probably harder job and no more rewarding job than running your own business. And we need to be focused and clear-headed, and just focusing on those couple little things can really, really be helpful.
Awesome. All right. Well, what is one, if there was just one, I know there's so many, but is there just one thing, one takeaway that you would like to share with our audience about the power of nutrition?
Food really is medicine. You feed, okay, you have a choice of feeding your body, and it can be made of straw, it can be made of sticks, or it can be made of bricks, just like the Three Little Pigs story. Do you want everything you put in your mouth feeds your cells? Your cells create your tissues create your organs create your systems create an organism, you. What are you going to feed those cells? And how do you want to have a brick house or do you want to have a house made of straw? Every bite you take influences what your house is made of.
Such great advice. That's so perfect. I love that so much. Stephanie, where can we find you? How can people get in touch with you and talk to you about their nutritional needs?
Outofthewoodsnutrition.com or helpforhashimotos.com both go to the same place. I have a podcast called Help for Hashimoto's. If somebody has thyroid issues, they can sign up for my newsletter and get the definitive guide to Hashimoto's. That's on my website. If you have just general chronic illness, you can also sign up for the newsletter because it's not thyroid focused. And always great information in my newsletter. And 99.9% of the time, there's a recipe included in every newsletter. So yeah, that's the best way to find me.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm so grateful to have you and know you, and I'm just love that you're in my life. And I can't tell you how refreshing it is to be able to have a conversation with someone as smart as you on topics such as this and to be so open and honest. I mean, you just lay it all out there. And I don't know that you realize how impactful that is for on the receiving end for those of us trying to learn. Because sometimes we're just afraid to ask the questions. We don't even know what to ask. I'm
Mhm.
just grateful that you're so willing to be open and honest and just lay it out there.
Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. And I'm also so glad to know you. I'm really grateful we were able to meet networking. It's been a great pleasure to have you in my life.
Aw, thanks. Well, again, thank you so much, Stephanie. You guys can find her at outofthewoodsnutrition.com. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Savvy Leader Podcast. Be sure to check the description below for any links or resources we mentioned today, and for even more inspiration and tools to help you on your own leadership journey. Come on over and join the conversation in the Savvy Leaders Lounge. That's savvyleaderslounge.com, and we'll see you next time.